about it. They would have had to have reset the entire set, each scene. Every time they experimented, go back to your marks. Go ahead and get in this position. Okay, now let's go ahead and angle it
again if they weren't stationary.
Move the cameras. They had to have done this, and there was at least, I can guarantee, a minimum of 2 to 5 minutes to reset between each shot. She couldn't fix her costume and recognize, oh, okay, something's not working out here.
So I saw this today. I was like, what the hell is this?
Whoa.
So this is like one of the most bizarre things I've ever seen come out of a film production like this. So this is Kevin Costner's lawyer cries shakedown as a Stuntwoman slams star and Horizon franchise over, quote, violent, unscripted R-word scene.
Wow.
So to remind everybody, the Horizon series and all this kind of stuff, Kevin Costner's kind of like personal pet project. Remember, this is what he left Taylor Sheridan and Yellowstone and Paramount. This is why he's not, they wrote the character off of Yellowstone. He decided he was going to go do his own thing. There was that whole business a couple of years ago when that went down. So this is part of the production, or this is the production that he left. This is his own project that he was working on. It's just a wild story, and I saw this, I'm like, okay, and get some opinions on this. So let me read through this to kind of familiarize everybody. Kevin Costner and his Horizon American Saga franchise already facing legal action from New Line over a co-financing deal, and now the star director of the Western series has been hit with a sexual harassment suit by veteran stuntwoman over an unscheduled, unrehearsed, quote, violent, unscripted rape scene. Costner's longtime attorney, Marty Singer, has bluntly called this a shakedown on the unspecified damages jury trial seeking complaint from Devin LaBella. I believe this is the stuntwoman, represented by lawyers from so-and-so and such, but basically that they failed to address the continued failures at the highest levels of Hollywood production companies to comprehend and address the impacts of performing in sexually explicit and violent scenes and the need for intimacy coordination. Now, my understanding, and I think they talk about this, is anytime you have one of these kind of scenes in especially a unionized Hollywood production like this is why these intimacy coordinators exist, right? They bring these people on the set anytime there's any type of romance, physical nudity, anything. You have to hire one of these. Remember, we made the joke about having to have an intimacy coordinator on the set of The Acolyte, a freaking Star Wars production, right? They probably guaranteed they had one on the set for Andor season 2 with that scene, So that's kind of the backstory. Here's what's uncontested. Reunited with Horizon 2 stunt coordinator and second unit director Wade Allen, LaBella was hired, this was the stunt woman, hired under a guild contract on the still unreleased Horizon 2, because the first one commercially was complete flopperooski, to be a lead stunt double. So she's a stand-in. She's a stunt double for one of the primary actors or actresses in the production, okay? Lead stunt double for the series for lead actor Ella Hunt. Most of the filming for LaBella on the Western sequel, the second in 4 Horizon films Costner's planned, took place in Utah. Following a previous filing last year, California Civil Rights Department, the plaintiff's document in the LA Superior Court docket Tuesday claims that on May 2nd, 23, plaintiff Devin LaBella, a female stunt performer, this is the stand-in, the stunt double, not just a stunt performer like a random actor, but an actual fill-in stunt double for Ella Hunt, was the victim of a violent, unscripted, unscheduled grape scene directed by Mr. Costner, owner and chief executive officer, secretary of Horizon Series Incorporated, stressing a clear violation of SAG-AFTRA, that's the Screen Actors Guild, on set protocols. The sexual harassment, sexual discrimination, and retaliation complaint goes on to say, quote, the impact of this impromptu work demand on Miss LaBella has been profound, not only upending a career Miss LaBella has spent years building, but leaving her with permanent trauma that she'll be required to address for years to come. And they go into...
Probably at the cost of a couple million, right?
Mm-hmm.
Sorry, call me I am sniffing. You know what it smells like? It smells like another lawsuit that a certain plaintiff is trying to get their tush out of ASAP right now. And can I ask a quick question?
Yeah, go for it.
Give spoilers, but has there been a counter suit against her?
I'm not aware of anything yet. I mean, I don't know. That's why I just saw the story. I did not get a chance to completely vet every piece of this before I got home today from work. But I saw
talking about Blake Lively?
I am talking about Blake Lively.
So yeah, but I think they go on. She goes on to kind of document in the suit some of this here. What the 9 claim complaint. I don't know what they mean by a 9 claim. I guess 9 different claims in the complaint is what we're saying here. 9.
That's what 9. They mean.
Okay, the 9 claim complaint also says that Saturday Night cast member Hunt was thrown by Costner's sudden addition of a grape scene due to the ad hoc and violent nature of the sudden script change request, along with the failure to secure a contractually required intimacy coordinator for the scene. Miss Hunt became visibly upset and walked off the set, refusing to do the scene, the filing says, noting that LaBella knew nothing about this until much later. So the original actress, right, Hunt, Wait, hang on. Don't want to do this. And then LaBella found out about this later. Having had nothing but a professional above-board experience so far on the film, LaBella took to the task when she says Costner asked her to stand in for the departed Hunt, who LaBella is stunt doubling for, right, to, quote, line up a shot. Then on a far-from-closed set with no intimacy coordinator, a modern underwear-wearing LaBella was attacked by Roger Ivans's Burke character, quote, over and over as defendant Kevin Costner experimented with different takes of the grape action, the 28-page complaint alleges. So
hold on, let me make sure I've got this right. So she's contracted through the guild, okay? And the guild would have required an intimacy coordinator be on set, generally speaking, on the day that they were going to film this. So regardless of who's there, if he wanted to experiment, but
film
allegedly,
maybe rehearse it too. I don't know, but probably anything having
generally
to do with
they just show up and talk through it. Like from all the intimacy coordinators,
intimacy coordinators came out because of the Weinstein scandals. They're fairly new in Hollywood. They became a thing in 2017. But typically with the intimacy coordinators, you have to get together with your actors, and it's really anything that has to do with the actors touching, pretty much, to make sure that everybody is okay with that. It could be kissing, hand holding, intimate scenes, or even scenes like these. Everything has to be submitted to the intimacy coordinator, and they have to rehearse it. They have to go over it and make sure all of the actors are comfortable with these scenes. It's something that they have to do before they even do walkthroughs or, line up shots or start filming. It has to go through an intimacy coordinator.
I have questions about it being unscripted.
Yeah.
So she's saying it's unscripted. Everyone else there is there for the scene and for the shot, though. So
yeah, that's what I'm wondering too. Because usually they have like dailies and everything is set up for whatever they're going to shoot for the day. So,
well, and especially on Westerns where there's guns and we learned that on the Russ Hut, especially, right? Like there should be daily reviews, rehearsals, going over the script for that day, which actors and actresses had to be there that day. The unscripted part I have questions about. And I also have questions about whether or not about the gray area of the intimacy coordinator. If that was required in the contract and he decided not to have one come, but it was with her consent. If they had discussed this, then it's not unscripted. So I just have a lot of questions. This sounds really, really, really similar to Blake Lively. I'm not going to lie. This has all the hallmarks, and it feels like a shakedown. Now, if it is genuinely a shakedown, this is the way to do it. Right?
Yeah,
they're not trying to.
Definitely gives that feeling a lot more, because the lawyer defending Costner says that there's, this was much later on. So like weeks go by, she didn't complain. They did say that they
This
explained.
is like 2023.
Yeah.
This is what we're talking about here.
Wait,
Yeah.
this
Well,
is 20, hold on.
Yeah.
How long from between the filming to the time the complaint was filed? May 2023.
May 2nd, 2023. So this is the event, what we're talking about here.
Yeah, filming is my point, Valiant. Weeks
Right,
go by of her
right.
filming without her complaining. So she felt this way and apparently had a good relationship, took them out to dinner, said thank you, send them nice texts. If she felt this way, why was she so amicable and thankful about the experience if she felt that truly at the time? I think this is a
'Cause she doesn't wanna
later
be
on
blackballed in
contrived
Hollywood.
kind of thing.
Or it's
'Cause
that
she doesn't
whole
wanna be
thing
blackballed.
about, you know, women feel uncomfortable in these situations expressing themselves. And so they wait, which does happen, but I'm not giving her a space of grace here because this has been happening way too much where, and it's too like women are able to come out now and say like, hey, this happened. It's wrong. You know, years ago, like when my grandma was young or something like that, women, stuff like this happened to women. They're like, they just kept it on the hush hush and nobody would believe them. Times are different now. So there's no excuse. But this kind of sounds like I was uncomfortable. I didn't think I'd be taken seriously. And so I'm coming out with it now because I feel like I have the support I need.
I have to disagree a
Not-
little
Danny,
bit.
I was gonna say, Danny, you said something a minute ago that again, this has been the case in Hollywood for years, and that is something to consider. Go ahead.
She doesn't want to get blackballed, you guys. You have to understand, like, that may be the case if you're working a 9-to-5 job where you can go to an HR department and be like, oh, he said this or he did that, and you have the upper hand and you know you do legally, then yeah, that's a little more cut and dry. The difficulty with these types of jobs and attorneys still, by the way, this type of behavior goes on in law firms a lot. And attorneys are they keep their mouth shut, these young associates, because they want to make partner and they don't want to piss off the guys who they're going to work with, right? So they just kind of, you know, I just don't feel comfortable with so and so. So they just won't hang out with them. But of course they're going to fawn and pussyfoot and do all the things to climb the corporate ladder or to climb the firm without causing an issue. Because for the firm, it's not, oh, I want to protect my associate. And I know I'm going to piss off a lot of attorneys out there, but this is what I have observed with my own eyes, and it's something I've experienced myself. The firm does not want a problem. And a girl who says, hey, this guy did this thing, and I know it's against policy, and I sure as hell didn't consent to this or feel okay with this, they see you as a problem to be fixed. They got to get rid of you. You're a liability for the entire firm. So it's much better to get rid of the new associate. So this happens in Hollywood too. How long? So the event happened in 2023 and she's just now filing this though?
That's what I'm saying is, yeah.
That's my concern.
This happened 2 years ago. So again,
when did the filming wrap?
I have to go back and look. It's probably been a while. I mean, they've been filming this Horizon thing for a while because it's a very lengthy multi-part. Like the movies were hours and hours long. They had to break them up. So I'd have to go look at IMDb to see the production on this, to see when it wrapped. It may have just wrapped a year ago for all I know.
Right. And that's the difference, right? So if it wrapped a year ago and you have a statute of limitations on when you can bring these claims under California employment law, which is where she's bringing this lawsuit, is through the sexual harassment claims in California. So it is entirely possible. And I'm just, you guys, for argument's sake, it's entirely possible that she was looking for an attorney. She vetted this through a couple attorneys. One attorney said, hey, I'll take it on a contingency, or I'll take it for pretty cheap. I'll sue for you. I think you have a good claim. And she waited until the set wrapped so she could get her paycheck. She didn't have any issues. Maybe she was waiting for another opportunity, and then she decided to file this complaint. Now, I'm curious how this ended up being public, because my understanding is when you sue this way in California, that these complaints are kept private.
Apparently not, because I mean the details of the complaint are more, and I'm not going to read all of this because YouTube absolutely ain't going to like me reading half the stuff that's in this paragraph. But to give you an idea, and this is why I thought like this gets really descriptive, and I've never seen anything like this come out of a Hollywood set production. I mean, I'm not saying it's never happened before. I'm just saying I've never seen one like this filed in a lawsuit that's this descriptive. Not only did Kevin Costner seek different takes according to the complaint, but the Oscar winner seems to have wanted to increase quote unquote, the violence in the assault, according to the article here in Deadline, with little concern for Labella, at least according to her filing. According to her filing, this is from the document itself, as defendant Kevin Costner directed Mr. Ivins to carry out the violent assault over and over and over again. Miss Labella felt the air pour over her intimate parts as her personal undergarments were exposed, even though to Miss Labella's knowledge, costume underwear is typically worn in planned intimate shots. This exposure was especially humiliating, compounded by the fact that Mr. Ivan's hands were resting on the top of a bundled-up skirt above her thing. Wardrobe immediately sewed up Miss Labella's bloomers as the same as she requested. It should have been done prior to the scene, but the departments were not prepared or informed, according to the allegations, that the scene would be happening. So there was no escaping the situation at all. Miss Labella could do was to wait for the nightmare to end. Now, there is, of course, a response from this. And again, this is what allegedly occurred May 2nd, 2023. So we're talking 2 years ago now, when, during obviously principal photography of this production. On the other side, the pugnacious Marty Singer is giving no quarter for the accusations against Kevin Costner. In an emoji pepper statement to Deadline based in part on what is an emoji?
What does that
peppers?
mean?
I've
Think
never
they mean,
seen
like
that in my life.
the lots
the
of
text.
emojis in them.
Emojis, yeah.
It's emojis. He posted it on Twitter like an idiot. Sorry, what's the name of this attorney?
Marty Singer. So I don't know. I guess. Okay. Our client, he says, Kevin Costner, always wants to make sure that everyone is comfortable working on his films and takes safety on set very seriously, unlike Alec Baldwin's finger, apparently. However, this claim by Devin Labella has absolutely no merit and is completely contradicted by her own actions and the facts. Miss Labella is a serial accuser. This is according to Mr. Costner's representation. Miss Labella is a serial accuser of people in the entertainment industry and has worked with the same lawyer on past claims, but those shakedown tactics won't work in this case. As a stunt performer on Horizon 2, the scene in question was explained to Miss Labella, and she performed the rehearsal in character with another actor. She gave her stunt coordinator supervisor a thumbs up and indicated her, I don't know if he means like verbally or literally did this on set. I have no idea. But he says thumbs up in quotes and indicated her willingness to then shoot the scene if needed, which she was not. That night, Miss Labella had dinner with her supervisor, the stunt coordinator, and with the assistant stunt coordinator, and she was in good spirits and made no complaints to them. She continued to work on the movie for a few more weeks until her wrap date. So this all did conclude a few weeks later in 2023, at least for her. And then she took the stunt coordinator to a thank you dinner. She also sent him a cordial thank you text illustrated with happy heart emojis, copy attached saying, "Thank you for these wonderful weeks. I so appreciate you. I learned so much, and thank you again. I'm really happy it worked out the way it did." So,
See, and that's the other side of the argument is, and that was my concern right there is, did she assent to doing this on scene? And is there some evidence of that? If she gave the thumbs up, especially if that was filmed and they talked about it and they have multiple witnesses saying, hey, we talked about this, we went over this. She knew, she consented to this, regardless of whether or not there was a stunt coordinator on scene. Now, or an intimacy coordinator on scene, I didn't hear that was required under the contract. What I heard is that is standard and generally required under the guild rules and what is recommended.
Which I think they technically have to follow the guild rules no matter what. So I mean, it's implied. I guess in that regard. But just real quick to wrap this up, and then I want to hear from everybody. One of Labella's lawyers, and it just says here, they sees it very differently. This case is a clear example of male-dominated, sexist Hollywood movie production, says Kate McFarlane to Deadline. So this was her statement directly to this publication, which is why I wanted to use this article here. Our client was subjected to brutal sexual conduct completely unprotected from the obvious harm. This happened despite the fact that there exist standards of conduct and behavior specifically designed to protect people like her client, Devin Labella. So there you have it. I mean, they're still filming this thing. They've got season 2, chapter 2, chapter 4. I mean, this was a huge endeavor for them. So anyway, that's the full extent of what we have at this point. So there you go. You guys go ahead.
That last comment, immediate just loss of credibility for me. Sorry. The minute you have to say, Hashtag me too, electric boogaloo. That's where I get concerned. And I stole that from you, Sean. Thank you. But I mean, that is what it is. It's you shouldn't have to rely on that. If the facts are as egregious as they're claimed to be in the complaint, you shouldn't need to say that. You should say, look, this was an isolated case, an isolated instance, but not for this defendant. This defendant has repeated violations, right? And we don't need to talk about this case outside of the context of the courtroom. We're happy to talk about it there. This is of such a personal and sensitive nature that my client has no desire to fight this out in the media. That's it.
Yeah.
That would be an appropriate and mature thing. I don't understand why everybody drags their legal problems into the spotlight. It's like that's not how the law works. It doesn't matter. You know, what 15 million people
this Amber Heard
say.
thing, right?
Yeah.
He's trying to make his client into a Johnny Depp and to say, well, in the light of day with all the facts being, he's trying to fight this case in public, which I thought he sounded familiar. There's a reason why. He's represented Lizzo, he's represented Ricky Martin, Zooey Deschanel, Brett Ratner, John Travolta, Charlie Sheen. So he has a long, I was like, gosh, that sounds familiar. But yeah, I mean, half of his fights have been in the public. Lizzo, we all know about the Lizzo cases and the arguments in response to Lizzo, right? Because of
Ron is just dragging you out there in the chat.
Ron has no chill button. It's fine, Ron. We can't all be old. Some of us young attorneys are only focused on certain new and up and coming attorneys like Alex Spiro.
It would be interesting to see her contract as well with the movie, because usually stunt doubles work with their stunt coordinators, which is why, you know, she was given a thumbs up. Typically, I had to Google this because I didn't know whether or not, because she is a stunt double, she's not an actor, and that is intimacy coordinators are required like for actors. And I was wondering, is there a gray area with stunt doubles? So stunt doubles are not explicitly required to have like intimacy coordinators because they have their stunt coordinators there. So that could be like a gray area with that. So I'm wondering like what her contract for this film says, if it requires an intimacy coordinator, because while they're required for like actors, stunt doubles are different. So it would be interesting to see that too.
Well, the other thing is too, like I don't know much about what goes on behind the scenes and the legal aspect of all of that, but I just for my simple self, like listening and reading, it sounds like she couldn't get away, and like he was just violently attacking her on scene, and it was just too real for her. And it's like at no point she couldn't say, I need a break, I can't do this, can I just walk away? She just went through it and never said anything until later.
Can I add something to that, Tabitha? So I've done some TV work in my youth. I'm not an actor, but I've been on a set before, and the stuff takes the longest time ever. Like it's basically dragged out. Like there's no way that these 28 takes all happen repeatedly. Like there's definitely like stop, reset, take a break, then like reset the camera. Like there's probably like hours of this, so there was probably not all just, it was the hell that continued on and on. Like she could have just been like, okay, after the first one, you know what, chill, I'm gonna Ella Hunt walked away. Why couldn't she walk away if it was really that bad?
Why could she not go to Costner and say, look, this scene, I don't know, because to Danny's point, of course, you want to keep your job. So butter him up and go to Costner and say, this scene is great, I think it really adds to the story. However, I'm not really comfortable with how this is being. Can we bring in the intimacy coordinator just so we get it right? Because I'm feeling a little whatever. Like communication. I don't know. That's what I'm saying. It's like, it sounds so bizarre to me that a woman's just there taking it.
Literally.
It was a nightmare that she needs therapy to recover from. And she just decided not to say something. Yeah, it takes a long time for these to do it. So you were there for 9 hours.
Think about it. They would have had to have reset the entire set, each scene. Every time they experimented, go back to your marks, Go ahead
Right.
and get in this position. Okay, now let's go
Move
ahead
the
and angle
cameras
it from
again if
this-
they weren't
move
stationary.
the cameras.
Yeah.
They had to have done this, and there was at least, I can guarantee, a minimum of 2 to 5 minutes to reset between each shot. She couldn't fix her costume and recognize, oh, okay, something's not working out here. She couldn't say, hey, guys, wait a second, I need costume. Hold on, let me off.
Or
This
mention
isn't
the
gonna work.
fact that she's menstruating and they need to be careful with how they're doing the scene, because
that's a bit bizarre too.
Well, because if you think about it, that could be a health violation because it's contaminated. You don't want to contaminate the scene. You don't want other people.
You're on. That's right. Yeah.
That is an
Yeah.
important aspect of what is happening right here. Besides the fact the dude would be just grossed out. So,
Well, and
I
not
mean-
only that, but she gave the thumbs up that she was
Yeah.
fine.
Yeah.
That, thumbs up is typically, I'm good. I'm all good to go. Let's
well,
do
Steph,
this.
she was on her
Front
time of
and
the
stunt
month, so
people.
she's likely to switch her mind.
Make sure you're subscribed to Valiant Renegade and join us every Sunday at 6 p.m. Eastern for the live show.